Yeah.
Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome back. We're continuing with our good luck with these wonderful artists. This afternoon is Michael Solovyev from Canada, Toronto.
Thank you.
And he has a great presence online, by the way. I watch it a lot on YouTube. So he can tell you a little bit more about himself as he wants to. So enjoy.
Thank you so much. Thank you. So, it's good what we took the lunch before. That means you can relax and sit in and enjoy. No worries, I will try to fit in 1 hour. I don't want to take all your time. And today I have a beautiful model. So, yeah, if you can see it on the screen, that's the reference. And she's a professional model, by the way. We're working together for many years. And in the process, feel free to ask me any questions. Stop me, no worries, I can paint and talk. And before I start, I can explain you something. So my paper was prepared before. I'm starting to wet the backside, like 20 minutes before we start. So my paper inside full of water. That means I have a lot of time to play with my pigments. It's not drying fast, and the process is comfortable. So I'm always preparing my paper that way. So on top it's dry, inside it's full of water. And that's my palette. For this painting, I think I will use just the 6 paints from here. Normally I'm trying to fit like 5, 6 pigments, no more. So that's it, let's go. Okay. Again, any questions? Ask me.
Michael, did you pre-wet the back?
Yeah. So I wet the back 20 minutes before I start, so full of water, comfortable.
So wetting the back allows what you're putting on right now to stay dry longer. Is that correct? Or stay wet longer?
Exactly. You know, normally if you apply your mix on the paper, water going inside, the pigments on top, and it's drying fast. So because my paper full of water inside, I have a lot of time to play with my pigments. It's not drying fast, and the process is pretty comfortable.
What weight is the paper?
This is the cold pressed Bauholz Masters paper. Master choice or Masters depends on it's in Europe or in the United States. That's a different, but that's good paper. Really, I like it. Normally I'm painting on the rough paper. This time I took the cold pressed to make the the gradients a little bit more softly.
Michael, what kind of brush are you using?
Ha. You know, if you go to the YouTube, you will find a special video recorded there to explain what kind of brushes and what's the secret of that brushes. Just in the few words, hard to explain. It's technically it's the goat, but the goat is very soft hair. This, it's a very strong. It feels like a synthetic, but it's natural goat. You know, if you use the synthetic brush, and then you touch your paper, you always have a perfect rectangle, right? Because it's just cut it, it's a tube. So this, because it's a natural hair, the strokes is very nice. It's really alive. But yeah, that's the unique brushes. It's made just by one person on the whole planet in China, in the small village. That's why it's very easy to wash out the pigments, what I'm doing now, or make the dry brush strokes. It just perfectly works for that. And yeah, it's very specific. For now, a lot of artists starting to use the same brushes because you know they made special for the watercolor. Not all the brushes what we use are made for the watercolor. You know, it's funny. Some of them still oil brushes. The Lauren, by the way, make the huge research about the history of the brushes in our, let's say, European civilization. You know, it's very funny. Then we brought, the English people brought the watercolor to our European world from China. The first 70 years, we have no idea what we have to use the other brushes. And in the beginning, we used the same brushes like for the oil. And it was very funny because we have no idea what is that. Like for example, you see for now I apply just the pigments here and everything is blended. And with that brush I can wash out and bring the shape back. So that's the lift and wash out, depends how you call that. But that's make it very soft. You see the pigment's unstable because the paper full of water inside. That's why I can move them anytime, change the colors, repaint. So normally we put the layer by layer, but in that style, let's say, I can reorganize everything in the real time, which is nice. So I can build my picture and change my mind anytime.
So how long does that effect last, have it wetting
Normally it depends on the brand of the paper, and cold press is drying faster compared to the rough. On that paper I have about 1 hour and a half till it will be dry and stable. So for the demo it's perfect time. Normally, even in my studio, then I'm painting alone. I'm never painting more than 1 hour and a half, even if it's a big size. You know, mostly it's just a personal. I couldn't back to my painting on the next day. On the next day, I'm a different person. I have a different feeling about my subject. I prefer to start from scratch. I don't want to back to that. So that's why I'm trying to be fast. And the process is more interesting. It's a live process, right?
What colors do you like to use for your skin tones, please?
Ha. Another one great question. Yeah, okay. No, honestly, thank you for the question. It's good. But it's the same like you asked me what colors we are supposed to use to paint the ocean. What kind of ocean? You know, the wild Indian Ocean or Caribbean, Cuba, or in the morning time, in the end of the day, stormy, it's always different colors. So there is no like a one solution, what colors we have to use for the skin tone. This time it's the a little bit green Quinone deep gold, a little bit alizarin crimson, queen sienna, my main color here, and then cobalt and purine violet for the shadows later. So that's the basic mix. But it's always a little bit different. You know, one of the important thing about the colors what I'm using, all of them transparent. So that means it doesn't matter how many paints I mix together. In the end, it's always nice mix. And that's important. So I can mix my colors almost automatically and without thinking. Honestly, it will be surprised how it will look like on the normal light. So we'll see.
What kind of light do you like for being able to see the colors the best?
That's the great question, honestly. So in Kelvin, it have to be 4,500. That's not cold, not warm. That's exactly like in cloudy day. More important, for now it's very hard, honestly, to paint because reflection from the light, so I see the reflection everywhere. I don't see exactly the color. So the light should be going that way, from the side to side, and that will be better. But it is what it is, right? So that's the point, because for now I can, like a sculpture, you know, I can make my shape 3D just to take all the pigments. Yes, just the water. Only the water. And by the way, talking about the color mixing, you can be disagree for sure. It's a lot of professional artists there. Everybody have a different vision, different feeling. What I found finally, first of all, I took the very strong education in Russia. In Russia, education, art education, like in China, very strong. But then we studied the watercolor. We studied that exactly like an oil. And all the color mixing, what we study, is just copy from oil, the same. But the watercolor, it's not the oil. In oil, we use the white to make the light. And it's absolutely not important is it transparent mixes or not transparent mixes in oil, but in watercolor, it's a difference. And from my point of view, that material need completely different way of thinking, mixing colors, choose the colors. Everything should be slightly different. But normally in the books, we still using the same mixes, the same way, the same ideas. From my point of view, it's completely wrong. Don't have to be like that. Different medium need different thinking. So that's another one, like simple technical trick. First, I put some pigments on my paper, and after that, I use the pure water to blend it and connect it to my background, or the first layer, doesn't matter. So like now, it's just the pigments, clean my brush, pure water, and make connection. still here?
Do you do the same composition repeatedly sometimes, or?
Yes and no, no, for sure. Different object need a different composition, and I have to organize my paper in a different way. But personally, I like the diagonal. So you see the model here standing a little bit more straight. I make the angles special. I like the diagonals. I like to use them. It's make the painting a little bit more dynamic. That was one of my first lessons, and I just started to study art in my art college, and we studied how to make the photos. I'm old guy. For now, everything is digital. In my time, we used the chemical process, black and white film. It was different things. So the first question what our teacher asked us, what is the main tool for the photographer? We say, camera? They say, no. Now I understood because everybody have a camera now on their cell phones. It doesn't help to make the nice photos, right? Lens? No. He say, a knife. How you cut your picture, how you make your composition. Everybody see the same subject, and just a good photographer can make the composition interesting and focusing on the main subject and organize the space around. So that was a good lesson. Since that time, it's always the first thing what I'm thinking about. How to represent my object in the best way. And for that, the composition for sure is the main tool.
I noticed you blurred out that arm almost completely. What is your principle for deciding where your sharp edges are and where your lost edges are?
That's the great question. Just imagine someone starting to play the jazz music. There is no notes here, just music, right? And you ask, what do you do now? How we can explain it? He just playing music, so that's the same process. Here on the reference photo, it's very strong shape, but it's not the story about this part. So that's why I don't want to focus on that. I want to focus on more on the head, on the face. I want to explain the light here, but this not important. So that's the reason why I blend it. Plus, it helps me to make some dynamic movement here, what I like to make. So, but why we doing that? It's, almost impossible to explain. It's not the same, not understandable rules. It's exactly like a jazz music. How we can say why you make that sound? Because I feel what it should be. So So yeah, but thank you for the question. That's why I'm asking myself times to times, why I did that? No, seriously, then you're painting, you're not thinking. It's just a life process. But then you finish your painting. It always makes sense to analyze what you did and ask yourself why. And sometimes the answer is have no idea.
Do you have a pencil sketch?
Yeah, this time, yes. It's very simple, just measuring. It's not visible, right? Okay. Just a little bit. Uh, Honestly, I prefer to paint without sketching by pencil, absolutely. I don't like that. It's to explain why. Um, just imagine if you paint a cityscape, um, then you organize your paper in the lifetime. You can decide, do you want to put the window here or car, or you don't want to do that, depends what you have on your paper. But if you make your sketch and draw the window, there is no way to escape. You have to paint it because it's just catch your eyes, it's in front of your eyes, and it's very hard to ignore it. But if your paper is empty, anytime you can change your mind and decide what to do, what not to do. So I prefer to paint without sketching. The same with the white or masking fluid. If you put the masking, first of all, it's very visible, always. Second one, you can change your mind. If you put the masking, you have a white and there is no way to escape. You have to follow that. So here, because I don't use the white paint or opaque colors, I can decide what to do anytime. And the way so my paper is wet, that means I can lift the pigments anytime if I want to bring the lights back. So everything is possible. And no worries, I back to the arm a little bit later to make some correction. So I hope I will keep it visible.
Why did you just splash clean water into that area?
To make some texture. Too soft for me, everything, so I need some little bit texture
Thank you.
and accent. You know that again the same idea. On the reference, it's a black lines here. In the process, I decide to make it lighter, almost white. So, as I say, it's a very live process. No, I'm painting every day, and with all my experience, then I started my project. I'm absolutely sure how it should be look like. In my mind, I have a plan. You know, in the end, it's always look completely different. Absolutely. And that's great, you know. First of all, because I'm not alone, I'm working with the water, and sometimes the water doing for me is something unpredictable, and I have to be ready to accept it. That's important. It's, you know, it's my partner. I couldn't force it. If you want to build good relationship with your partner, you have to trust your partner, right? You have to trust. So if something happens before I'm starting to correct it, I'm thinking maybe it's nice and I just have to leave it. So that's why, as I say, it's very live. That's, by the way, that's the reason why I paint the oil before and a lot, and finally I switched to the watercolor exactly because of that reason. You know, it's a little bit unpredictable, a little bit alive, and I'm not alone. In oil, acrylic, tempera, all the mediums, you're just one person who's responsible for everything, you alone. Here, you have a partner, and that's make the process very interesting.
Michael,
Yep.
would it be possible time to time for you to put the painting up so we can see the true values so we can see it?
Yeah, that's the good idea. Yes, I will do that. Just a few corrections. Yes, sure.
Can you speak about your palette? Why did you choose the colors or the pigments that you've chosen?
Absolutely. So that's very, very important question. Yeah, first of all, as you already know, all of them transparent. Some of them itself look very ugly and terrible. But the question is, what mixes I can get from that? So yeah, I will show you what we have in the process, if I can. So for now, my lady look like that. Yeah. I hope it will be better. So maybe you know, maybe not. I'm working with Daniel Smith, and that company built good relationship between the artist and the companies. So, yeah, that was a mistake to move it. The pigment's starting to move a little bit. No matter. Okay. So times to times they create the new pigments and discovering new colors and send it to the ambassadors to try. And you know, sometimes the color itself look very nice. Then I started to mix with my basic palette, and still nothing interesting happens. So maybe itself is great, but the question is, can be that pigment, that paint, part of my family or not? Because it's not interesting to use the colors directly. It's interesting how they are mixing together, right? So that's how slowly palettes, but you know, it's never will be like that forever. 3 years ago, I used ultramarine a lot. So for now, it's gone from my palettes completely. I switched to the cobalt. So it's a life process. It's never stopped. By the way, I can tell you one huge secret about the palette. Just a second. Some other companies sometimes make the paints special for the artists.
Sorry, your mic turned off.
No? Yeah? Good. Okay. Thank you. You turned it off because of the, yes, thank you. So, make the special paints for the artists. For the Joseph's book, which Alvaro Castagnet, Lauren McCracken. But look how interesting is that. For Joseph's Bookage, they make Joseph's cool gray, Joseph's warm gray, Joseph's natural gray. For Alvaro Castagnet, Alvaro fresco gray. For the Lauren McCracken, McCracken black. No one artist looking for the bright colors. Everybody looking for the gray mixes. Because we painted by the shadows, we painted by the negative space. This is our main tool. So, the best example, just imagine, if you want to paint something simple like a banana, that's very easy to make it in the light. You just take the yellow color and you have a banana in the light. What about the shadow on the banana? It have to be cool, but you couldn't use the blue colors, you will have a green. So how to mix yellowish gray, cold yellowish gray? That's interesting game. So the answering on your question, how I make the selection of my palette, from my point of view, personal, if I can mix any kind of gray colors, I mean greenish gray, bluish gray, yellowish gray, anyone, use just 2 paint from my palette, fast and simple, my palette in the good shape. If I have to spend 10 minutes to prepare my gray mix, paper is dry and I don't have that time. It have to be done simple. So that's the question of selection of the colors. Some of them itself, like a phthalo green blue shade, for instance, look terrible, really. You'll never see that color in real life. It's look like a cheap marker for the kids. But it doesn't matter, because from this color I can make very nice mixes. The same Indian yellow, it's so bright yellow color. We never see that, except the flowers, that yellow color in real life. But mixes from the Indian yellow, phthalo green, phthalo blue, they're brilliant. So that's the idea of the selection. By the way, sorry, here you will find my set. It's 10 colors, exactly what I use here. And for now it's the most popular set from the Daniel Smith. Not because of my name here, because it's really perfectly selected colors. Seriously.
So you're saying there's a dot card at the Daniel Smith table, correct, of your collection?
Dot card and set of the 10 tubes, what I'm using all the time. So it's on the table.
Is your paper still damp?
Oh yeah, inside it's absolutely wet still.
What weight paper do you use?
For now, this is the Bauhong Master Choice, 300 grams cold pressed. So, normally I'm always switch from the Bauhong rough mostly, and the Sanders Waterford. This is my 2 favorites paper. The reason is simple, they are drying so slowly, and the Bauhong have a brilliant texture. So, and again, it's that paper made special for the artist, because the factory is starting to talk with the artist and trying to find what the people looking from the paper. That's how the Bauhong Masters paper came to the world. That's a brilliant idea. know, that soft gradients, what I'm doing now, just imagine if you want to make that gradient in oil, you have to spend a couple of hours. So in watercolor, it's come in natural way if you use it exactly like a watercolor. So that's a good thing. Whoa. And because of the reflection, I'm not sure what I'm doing, honestly. But it's a fun, right?
Michael, on the model's face, you have a lighter area. Is that visible in the photograph, or did you just decide to do that?
I slightly change it a little bit. Yeah. Because, you know, again, it doesn't matter. There is no sense to following the reference. A few hundred years ago, it was a very important part of the artist's job to represent the reality and show how the reality looked like. For now, everybody have a cell phone, so we have a different job for now. That's why, again, that's what I understood finally, because then you took the classical art education, you study exactly how to copy reality, how to represent reality. But if I'm starting to fight with a printer or cell phone, I will lost anyway. So finally I understood what, for now, nobody interested in how the world look like. We know how it's look like. But the people interested in what you feel and think about the world. That's the difference. So for that, you have a lot of freedom. You don't have to follow reality exactly. You can change it. It depends on what you want to say, or what you want to explain, or what you feel. So that's make the job more interesting. Definitely. By the way, then you choose your paper for your project. Depends on the style for sure. If you're interested to follow in kind of that style, and if you want to keep your paper wet for the long time, you should know that a rough paper dries slowly compared to the cold pressed, and it's a huge difference. You know how the paper made? For sure, you saw that video many times. It's just a lot of fibers, right? Between fibers, we have air. If the companies don't use the rolls, just make the screen like that, pulp and put it dry, we have a rough paper. If the company use the rolls like that to press the fibers, if they're cold, we have a cold press paper. If they are hot, the rolls, it's like an iron, we have a hot press paper. But just think, It's the same amount of the fibers. In the rough paper, we have a lot of space between fibers. And then you put the water here, you have a lot of water. In the cold pressed paper, you have less space. On the hot pressed paper, no space. That's why the hot pressed paper, the same brand, drying just like that. The rough paper dries slowly. So that's the reason, one of the reasons why I use mostly the rough paper. I need the time.
Are any of your colors staining colors?
You see, I'm always use washout lifting. So even the phthalo pigments here, how you say phthalo, phthalo? Phthalo, okay, because in each country is slightly different. Okay, phthalo. Even the phthalo pigments from the Smith here, they're not that staining. I can wash out it completely. Normally, from other brands, it's impossible. So the Smith make another, from my point of view, another one revolution and make that possible to lift the phthalo pigments. They are very concentrated, great for the mixes, but before it was so stable, no way to take it off. So now that's possible. So all my pigments I can lift easily, all of them.
Do you have any granulating pigments for that nice background?
Not in my palette here, but I do like to use it. So Bloodstone, Lunar Black, Tiger Eye, I like it, especially, if you paint the street in the Italy, the buildings, the texture of the stones, the Tiger Eye with the Bloodstone just make it natural way. You see the texture, it's brilliant. But here again, that's the minimum set. And I don't want to think then I'm painting, just pick up the pigments automatically. But if it will be some granulated pigments here and I put it on the skin, it not will be nice, So that's why it's not here. But yeah, I do like to use it. But it's like for the special effects, it's very special things. Normally, no.
Did you mention if you have a favorite brand of paint?
Yes, Daniel Smith, and only.
Thank you.
So all my colors is just the Daniel Smith. It's a lot of reasons. First of all, it's really quality. It's really great quality. And the John Cogley, the owner of the Daniel Smith, I like the idea. He He don't care about how expensive the pigments. The Gum Arabic, Daniel Smith, it's a food grade. You can eat the paint, seriously. So he trying to do the best colors in the world, and he talk with the artist, which is very important. So that's why, I know what I'm using, I know why, and if something not exactly like I'm looking for, he listening and change it. So it's great. It's the good relationship between the companies who make. The same happens with the Bauhorn paper, how the Bauhorn paper came to the market. It's great story. The owner of the Bauhorn factory is the same guy, a chemical guy, who made the paper first. And then he created the paper, the Bauhorn master paper, made by completely different way, technically. So first of all, it's a one-side paper. You can paint on the back side. And it's a 2 layers paper. The main layer, it's just a little bit gelatin there, it's a lot of fibers. The second layer on top, with a nice texture, with a lot of gelatin. That's why then you start to paint and put the water here. The pigments not going down. Normally, if you're painting on any kind of paper, the Fabriano, Archie, Saunders, anyone, the pigments with the water going inside. That's why then it's dry, we lost about the 20% of the brightness, right? So on the Bauhorn paper, all the pigments on top. And inside going just the water. And the water support the pigments. It was a brilliant idea. And just think what he did. Then he created that. They invite Joseph Zbukvich, fly from Australia to China to test the paper. And they changed the recipe. Joseph say, I like this, I don't like that. After that, Alvaro Castagnet was invited to be there as well. Alvaro Castagnet test the paper and say what he like, what he don't like. And they changed the recipe again. I was lucky guy, I was invited on the factory as well. So that's why we have finally the square blocks of the Bauhorn paper, which I like. I like to use the square format. So,
How do you spell bottle?
sorry?
Do it again.
Sorry, I can't hear you.
How do you spell that name?
Bauhorn?
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thank you.
So that's why, like other companies, they make a lot of different paper, but we're talking about the master's choice or master paper, because that made exactly like artists looking for. So finally, the factory created the paper with all the artists, watercolor artists looking. So that's a great idea to make that relationship. And I like that.
Can't hear you. Louder.
No, you can hear me? Maybe because I'm talking about the Bauhorn paper, not Fabriano. I hope not. Okay. We're almost done. Just.
Those brushes are available on your website, is that correct?
Yes. And honestly, the 2 places in the world where you can find that brushes. In the Tokyo, in Japan, they have a biggest art store in the world. So that brush is there on the 5th floor and just on my website only. Because, it was very funny and hard to find the masters who make that brushes, because that brush, the first one, was a gift from Chinese master to me. And then they give me that brush. I look at the brush, and, for me it looked like a cheap toy. Absolutely not serious. So I say thank you and keep it in my easel a couple of weeks. And after that, another one Chinese master saw that brush in my easel and say, where you get that? It's very rare, expensive brush from handmade from China. So yeah, I tried it and I just fallen in love with that brush. It's changed my style completely. But you know the problem is 2 years I'm just hiding. I couldn't use that brush in public. In my studio, yes, because you know there is no way to find it in the store, and no one of my students can follow me. So in the 2 years we finally found the master. And you know it's a very funny story. He didn't speak English for sure, and living in a small village, and never use internet. So if I want to order the brushes from him, I send a message to one of my student, Chinese lady. She translated to China, sent email to the village near that master, and the guy printed and go to the master and say, please make the brushes. 21st century, I know, but there is no other way. No, I believe that you know the relationship between the companies who make the materials and the artists in the watercolor world is extremely important, because it's just one medium on the planet, whereas all the parts going inside each other. You know, it never happens with the oil, acrylic, tempera, gouache, watercolor, and pigments going inside the paper. So quality of each part is extremely important. So that's why it's great when someone starts to talk.
What is the best way to preserve these watercolors?
What do you mean? Can you repeat it or explain it some other different way?
Do you ever wax or
Ah, okay. Okay, yeah, understood, yes. Any varnish, wax, and other things, it's companies make it just for the market. You know, it kills watercolor. The paper have to breathe, and it's very important. For now, you can protect it, put the varnish. After the 10, 20 years, your watercolor is going to die. No air coming here, so it's very important. Best way, just put the glass and plastic glass, plexiglass or something like that. That will be enough. So no varnish, nothing. It's just a paper. The paper have to breathe.
I noticed when you were mixing, you're pulling a lot of water from the dirty water bin instead of the clean water bin. Are you worried at all about muddying water?
No.
Or,
No, I'm not worried about that because, you know, I'm painting from light to shadow. The first touching was pretty light. After that, it's going to be darker, darker, darker. So honestly, it's still clean water. For the watercolor, it's okay. Especially if I use the dark mixing like that. So it's not a big problem. We almost done. couple of minutes and we finish it. Okay, we're done. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you so much, and thank you for your questions. That one is dry, you can feel what's there here. It's stronger, you see? It's not soft. And that's why, you know, it can be very sharp or pointy. So, yeah, it's very, very special things.
Thank you so much, sir. Really appreciate it. Which part of Canada are you from?
Sorry?
Where are you from in Canada?
Montreal.
We were in the Banff National Park last month. We did all the beautiful. John Solovyev. Demonstration. Well done.
Michael, that was really proud. I mean, I felt like I was watching a maestro. It was just and you represented Daniel Smith in everything you said in so many ways. Thank you. So, this was the brush you used mostly?
Yes, the five.
This one?
For the bigger sizes, sometimes I switch to that one, but that's the main.
I go to your website and I try to say yes, and then I'm just not sure about license pictures or anything that there's people that do.
Yes, we deliver it around the world.
So good. Somebody created it for you?
That's my design as well, because I need the big pens for the big brush, so I whenever I make it. And that's
And you don't mind if we, yeah. And so the 10 colors in your Daniel Smith kit,
yeah, so that's
are these colors?
few extra adjustments. This is granulated colors. Like I
Okay.
use it time to time. So the 10 colors what I use at the time is
Right.
What color is this?
this one.
This one? No, this
No, what is you've mixed?
It's a
there.
dirt.
is it? Okay, but on your shadows, on your dark browns, you use the burnt sienna, but then you
No,
use.
it's not burnt sienna. It's a quinacridone sienna. The burnt sienna not transparent. So
Okay.
it's a quinacridone sienna, pure in violet, and a little bit cobalt.
So did you hear him say that his kit at Daniel Smith that has 10 colors in it?
I love the
is
15-minute video. Okay.
Okay.
I know it's not
Yes, and it's,
Okay.
I'm a Daniel Smith representative.
I couldn't. Okay, so you can get that from
Right
Daniel
up there,
Smith, and
right
you-
up here.
but you can't purchase it there, can you?
The colors, yeah. Yeah, they're selling them.
You can buy that kit.
No. The kit of colors. Just the colors, not this palette. This is a palette. This is a palette of colors.
Is that a wooden palette? Is that a plastic?
It's been created for him.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I've seen some of the wooden ones.
But the mud he was talking about,
What about
that
the
he
brushes?
used-
You can buy them from him.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah. And you can even buy his black tape from him online.
Okay, you work for Daniel Smith?
No, I don't work for him. I'm one of